the Rangers broke up a no-hitter in the most dramatic way possible, and Tyler Mahle looked absolutely sensational in his first game with the Rangers. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into Tyler Mahle's fantastic debut, something about him that I didn't realize, and ESPN ranking the Rangers farm system near the bottom of Major League Baseball? This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB, use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, the Rangers were coming off of the most dramatic, good vibes feeling win of the season, so of course they took a no-hitter against them into the final out of the game. But that wasn't really the story of this game. The real story was Tyler freaking Mahle, who the Rangers signed last offseason in a 2-year deal where he would make about $5 million this year and I believe about $16 million next year to help shore up this staff that has been, a little banged up, a little on the older side, and completely unable to develop homegrown pitchers to kind of keep a cheap and controllable rotation moving forward. But the Rangers decided to buy low on Tyler Mahle coming off of Tommy John surgery or elbow reconstruction surgery, whatever it's technically called now, knowing that he would miss the majority of this season. The timeline was hoping that he would be back in sometime late July. That ended up being August the 6th, making his Rangers debut and looking absolutely fantastic. 5 innings of work, just 1 walk, just 1 run, only 2 strikeouts, but still, he was doing something that I did not anticipate, did not really know about Mahle. I had looked him up and watched a few of his starts, but one of the things that really doesn't come across on a Baseball Savant page or a Baseball Reference page is how darn good this guy's command is. I mean, it is absolutely sensational, the way he was just painting on the corners. Maybe you could call it nibbling. I wouldn't, especially when you've got a catcher like Jonah Heim, who is one of the best framers in Major League Baseball and has been for the entirety of his career. That's been, the thing. The offense has come and gone with Jonah Heim. The, ability to control the running game has kind of come and gone at times. But the framing, the game calling, has always been fantastic. Even though his framing doesn't rate up very good this year, I think it is really underrated because last year he was in the top 3% of Major League Baseball when it came to framing. The year before that, top 2% of baseball in 2022, and in 2021, again in the top 3% of baseball. I don't know what's happened this year. Maybe it's more of the pitching staff. Maybe something has gone on with Jonah. I don't know exactly why it has him as in the 37th percentile below league average in framing, but that is not the Jonah Heim that we know. So many pitches just right on the border of the strike zone for Mahle. Several stolen strikes for Jonah Heim, and I think that is going to be a great pair for Mahle. The fastball control is sensational. The splitter looks fantastic. The slider is pretty loopy. I thought it'd use a little bit more of the cutter than we have seen so far, just throwing it twice last night in 76 pitches. We had a little bit of they called a limiter on him, basically just not fully throwing, 100 pitches, going 6-7 innings or things like that. But in terms of a first start, he did have quite a bit of traffic to work out of. 5 hits allowed for him, but working out of some tough jams. His defense kind of let him down a little bit in this one. The defense had some uncharacteristic lapses. The Rangers hit into quite a few double plays, but they were only able to turn one when they had opportunities for 3 of them. And if they had turned all 3 of those double plays, that 2-run homer that Corey Seager hit in the 9th inning would have been a walk-off. Yeah, that's right. 3 of the 4 runs that the Rangers gave up could have been avoided if they were able to turn these double plays that I think most times they do. I mean, it was a difficult couple of plays. One of them actually was pretty routine. Marcus Semien, it was what led to the first run. Marcus Semien was turning what looked like a routine double play ball, but he could not quite get the ball out of his glove. And then in the 9th inning, right before Yordan Alvarez's massive home run, Alex Bregman hit a ball a little bit to the left of Marcus Semien. He was ranging there. It was a difficult play, but one that we've seen him make. He had to go to his knees, slide, and just took him an extra half second maybe to get the ball to Corey Seager to try and turn that double play. And Bregman just barely beat it out, hustling all the way down the line. And then right after, Dane Dunning led up a massive 2-run bomb to one of the best hitters in baseball in Yordan Alvarez, who had been in a bit of a slump lately. Heading into this game, he'd only had 1 home run in his last 25 games, and you really hope that doesn't get him going. Just a massive, massive pitch. Actually, maybe that was before the last couple of games. Yeah, no, it was leading into this game because he did not have a home run in last night's game. Thankfully, the Rangers were able to pitch around him. But still, a decent game all around, and Mahle looking like this kind of complete pitcher, this kind of guy who can, paint the corners, who can, I think, eventually get this team deep into games when he is, closer to, 100 pitches, 90 pitches, whatever his ceiling is for the number of pitches that he throws in a game. That is something that I think will be good. And it's one of the things that you didn't really notice from his box scores. When you look at those box scores when he was doing his rehab appearances, I wasn't watching them fully as closely as I should have been, seeing how close some of those pitches were. But, he threw 76 pitches tonight. Only 49 of them was for strikes. He was a little bit lower in terms of that ball strike rate in his rehab outings, but I think that's because the command was kind of close. Those pitches were kind of close, still getting that back. And what is really, really impressive about him having this level of command, the pitches that he was missing were the kind of misses that you want to have. There's splitters that are below the zone. If you swing at them, there's nothing you're going to do but drive them right into the ground. There were 4-seamers and sliders that are off the plate away to righties and into lefties, glove side, that there's not going to be any damage done there. There's no way if you swing at that, and even if you make contact, it's just going to be a weak ground out or a weak fly out or a swing and a miss. But he is missing exactly where you want. And the thing that's so impressive about him having that level of command in start number 1, coming back from UCL surgery, is that usually when pitchers come back, sometimes they'll have the velocity early on. Their break on their stuff will look similar, but it usually takes a full year after you've already come back, or it's at least that next season, maybe not a full, 12 calendar months, but usually it's not till the next season that the command fully comes back. That's almost always the last thing to come back for a pitcher when they're coming back from Tommy John surgery or UCL repair surgery. And the fact that Mahle looked this good, that his command was this on point in start number 1, coming off that surgery, is so impressive about what he could do possibly in the future. The fact that he doesn't have elite velocity, he's still able to get that swing and miss with the fastball that plays up very, very well in the zone, incredibly impressive. And it is something that makes him so good. If you've got that splitter, like Nathan Eovaldi does, like Kirby Yates does, like Tyler Mahle does, you usually want to balance that with a fastball that plays well high in the zone. So you can kind of, attack high in the zone and then get hitters to expand the zone down with that splitter that they think is going to be a fastball, but ends up just dying right before it gets to the plate. That's what makes those pitchers so darn good. And it's something that we've seen Yates do very well this season. It's something that we've seen Eovaldi do better this season. I think he's used a little bit more of his splitter this year, less so of the curveball and the slider and the cutter, which are all decent pitches for him. But really, when you've got that 4-seam fastball that plays so well off the splitter, going majority splitter fastball, even we've seen at times for Eovaldi going majority splitter, making that be his primary pitch, as opposed to the four-seamer, which is a little bit more traditional, that is a dangerous, dangerous combination. It is something that has made Mahle good. It is something that has made Eovaldi good. And seeing him rely on this and have that kind of command in start number one, I mean, I know the strikeouts weren't really there. I know that the line doesn't look overall super impressive. Oh my gosh, this guy is so amazing. But for the price the Rangers got him, and for what has happened to the rotation in the last week and a half with John Gray going on the IL, with Michael Lorenzen being traded away, and with Max Scherzer going on the IL, getting this kind of a big gun back, along with hopefully Jacob deGrom at some point in either late August or early September. Whoo boy, this charge, even with the offense, getting no hit for 8 2/3 innings, this pitching staff might be just good enough to carry this mediocre division to a division winner for the Rangers. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Looking for promotions? Then PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or get your entries fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, what was going to be the story of the game, until Corey Seager hit that gorgeous home run, was Framber Valdez no-hitting the Rangers. Thankfully, they avoided that. They also got justice for Yu Darvish, who had that perfect game broken up by Marwin Stinkin' Gonzalez back in, what was that, 2012? 2013? I can't remember specifically which year that was, but I know it was one of those years. No, it was 2013 because I was a freshman in college, and that was April of that year, the second game of the year, where the Rangers nearly had a perfect game from Yu Darvish. But alas, that stupid single up the middle between Yu Darvish's legs ended up breaking that up, and that was it. And this Rangers team, this is a good Framber Valdez. He is one of the better pitchers in baseball and has been for a while now. He has been on a heater after starting the season in a bad way, but this is a guy who the Rangers have seen a lot, and this is a guy who, even though he has great stuff, he wasn't even pitching really his best in this game. I know that sounds inconceivable to say when he was having a no-hitter, nearly a perfect game. I mean, the only base runner he had through, 7 innings was an error by Alex Bregman, who immediately rectified that by turning a double play. I mean, maybe the other story of this game is that the Astros turned all of their double play opportunities and the Rangers did not, and that kind of ended up being the difference in this game, because had Ezekiel Duran not hit into that ground ball double play, honestly a really great turn on a difficult play by Bregman in the 9th inning. Robbie Grossman leads off with a walk in that 9th inning, and then Zeke Duran hits a ball 104, takes a short hop, and Bregman makes a very, very difficult play look pretty darn easy, turning the double play right before Josh Smith works a walk on a full count, and then Corey Seager gets an absolute gift pitch. A slider, first pitch ambusher. That's what Corey Seager is. The most dangerous first pitch hitter in Major League Baseball, and it's not close, and it's not a secret on the scouting report that, hey, maybe don't throw this guy who, by the way, is on one of his patented absolute heaters right now. A guy who has 5 home runs in his last 5 games. And over that span over the last 7 games, the on base is actually below his batting average. The batting average is only .286 in those last 7 games, and only 8 hits in those last 7 games, but 5 of them are home runs, and kind of incredibly, he only has 7 RBIs in that span. But the guy is just on a heater on another level when it comes to hitting the ball out of the ballpark, hitting timely home runs late in ball games. We literally just saw it last night, him hitting that game-tying home run that set up the Josh Smith walk-off in extra innings. And, well, the reason that Josh Smith got that kind of a pitch to hit was because the Astros were so scared of facing Corey Seager with the potential to hit a walk-off home run or a walk-off double, whatever it would have needed to be at that moment. Thankfully, Smitty said, yeah, you don't need that. You already hit one dramatic home run today. Let me hit a dramatic home run today as well. But giving him a gift slider that was just as middle as you could make it, not the right pitch. And if you're getting no hit through 8 2/3 innings against the team you despise the most, right after hitting a heartbreaking walk-off homer against them the night before, if you're going to break that up, literally the best case scenario is getting that 2-out homer to break it up. And a credit to Dave Raymond, who I discredited on Twitter immediately after he made this comment of Dane Dunning giving up that 2-run bomb to Yordan Alvarez in the top of the ninth. This offense had looked really bad all game long. I mean, the swing decisions, I feel like, were terrible in that game. I mean, they were not swinging at these gift pitches that Framber was giving them. I mean, he wasn't just hitting his spots perfectly. There were a few pitches, quite a few, where he was hitting his spots perfectly and painting on the outside corners, including that called strike 3 on Ezekiel Duran on a sinker that just came in right to a perfect pitch, looked like it was going to be a ball inside all the way, but just had just enough run to get there right on the corner for called strike 3. And that curveball is incredibly nasty. I mean, it gets so many chases out of the zone down that looks like it ends up in the dirt, but it looks like it's going to be, a perfect strike to swing at. It is a darn good pitch, and he threw it 40 times last night out of his 107 pitches. Heck, he only threw the fastball 22 times last night out of his 170 pitches. Threw the changeup 32 times and the slider 13. Really was not using that sinker much at all last night. But the pitch that he hung to Corey Seager, it was set up by an earlier pitch. Just a few innings before that Corey Seager swung over the top of a backup slider, supposed to be out away off the plate, that ended up being practically middle, and Corey Seager just swung over the top of it before flying out to left fielder Yordan Alvarez on a ball that would have been a home run in just one ballpark. That was back in the 4th inning. He hit the ball pretty hard, not too terribly hard, on a pitch that was also a gift, a middle pitch. There were plenty of those pitches that were hung over the middle of the plate by Framber Valdez last night. The Rangers just couldn't do anything with. They either smacked him right into the dirt, they popped him up, or they flew him out. And that pitch that he hit out to left field, it would have been a home run in only one ballpark. Can you guess what that ballpark is? A short left field. Who would have thunk it would have been a home run in Houston? Probably everybody. And then after Framber Valdez exits the game, and back to what I was saying about Dave Raymond before I got distracted by my ADHD, Dave Raymond said that changed the calculus of the game, giving up that 2-run bomb that is a 4-run deficit instead of a 2-run deficit. I said, that's not going to make a darn difference. I said, no, Dave. You've seen how bad this offense is. There's no way that 2 extra runs are going to make the difference in this game. Yeah, maybe they thought they were still in it, but with the swing decisions that they've been making all game long of letting these gift pitches go by or doing nothing with them and then chasing these curveballs in the dirt, why would you think that 1 run would make the difference? I thought, what, 1 run was enough to, beat this Rangers offense. Turns out that wasn't the case with that Corey Seager 2-run bomb, and Dave Raymond was exactly correct. And I'd eat a whole heaping of crow, but that's not how the game ended. It did end up making the difference. It almost didn't with Josh Young hitting a ball to the warning track. Would have been a home run in 3 ballparks off of Josh Hader, a fastball up and away that he took to the opposite field. And something that Josh Young can do is hit those balls out to every part of the ballpark, whether it's oppo, whether it's center cut, whether it's pull side. He is able to have power to all of those fields. He hit a ball pretty hard, not incredibly hard hit, 93 miles an hour off the bat, 339 feet at a launch angle of 37 degrees. hit it up just a little bit too high, didn't get it quite on the great part of the bat. Only expected batting average of 040. It would have been a home run in just 3 ballparks, but one of those ballparks would have been Houston. So, had we been in Houston, this Rangers team might have ended up winning this game off of 3 home runs being all the scoring. But alas, that was not the case. That's not how it went down. And sometimes that's the margin of error. That's how these things go. Sometimes you are just that close. And so far, these games against Houston have all been that close. This last game tonight is what's going to decide the Silver Boot Series for the year. They are tied up. The batting averages against each other are very similar. The OPSs against each other this year are very similar. The run differential, I think it's even at this point. If not, then I think it's +1, one direction or the other. I mean, these teams have been very, very even against each other this year. And if it comes down to the end of the season, last year, the difference was the head-to-head record. Literally the last day of the season. Had the Rangers still lost it, if they had won one more game against the Astros and lost one more game elsewhere, and the Astros had, won one more game elsewhere, and they ended the season tied with that record, the Rangers would have won the division, and they would have been the ones laughing, but we all know how that turned out, and that ended up being fine. But still, you don't really want to bank on that moving forward. You would rather have home field advantage. You would rather beat the Astros every time you can, and just let alone making up the ground. You need every single win you can get moving forward, and having one that was this close, even after the offense was this bad, was just incredibly frustrating. But maybe a little bit more frustrating, maybe my priorities are out of whack, but maybe for me a little bit more frustrating, was ESPN ranking the Rangers farm system 29th in all of Major League Baseball? About why they said that and why they are dead wrong. And even if they aren't, why it doesn't matter. Right after this from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Liquid IV. When you're taking America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America, because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Find all your favorite flavors on their website, from acai berry to lemon lime to pina colada as well. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than just water alone. It's got 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. It's always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free as well. So no more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Yesterday, ESPN's Kylie McDaniel, their prospect writer, a very smart baseball man at ESPN, released his 30 updated farm system rankings after the trade deadline. Now, the Rangers, before the season, he had ranked as the 12th best system in Major League Baseball. But after the trade deadline, where they gave up all of Liam Hicks, Tyler Owens, and Joseph Montalvo, they ended up with the 29th best farm system in Major League Baseball, ahead of only the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Behind the Astros, behind the A's, behind literally everybody else in baseball besides the Angels. And my thought is, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Are you for freaking real right now? Kylie McDaniel. He has been doing this for a long time, and he is one of the prospect writers who I respect the most. I mean, he has been in this game a long time. He has been an evaluator. He has been very right on a lot of different things. He was one of the high men on Jack Leiter, and I think that part of this was him kind of re-correcting after being one of the highest guys on Jack Leiter consensus in how high he had him in the top 100 right after the draft. And that hasn't quite worked out. And there have been quite a few disappointments on the farm this year. Guys like Abimelec Ortiz, who I was hoping would build on last year's breakout, this year very much has not in Double-A. We all know what's happened with Jack Leiter. We don't have to talk about it anymore. Barely talked about it this year. It's been very, very frustrating. Not some kind of indictment on him that, he's never, ever going to make it to the big leagues. He's never going to be a starter. There's no way he's going to be a good pitcher. But it's been frustrating for sure for the last couple of years, even though he has made progress this year. But the fall off from guys like Owen White have been deeply, deeply disappointing. But the fact that he mentions guys like Jonathan Ornelas not hitting at the big league level being one of the reasons why this farm system is 29th, are you serious? Ornelas is a good prospect, a guy who has never really hit all that well. He has always been glove first. He has always had that kind of ceiling of, depth utility infielder, but probably a pretty decent one. But that's what you're using to say that the Rangers farm system is one of the worst in baseball? He uses Sebastian Walcott as the Rangers' best prospect, but he doesn't say a single word about what Walcott has done as a teenager in high A, which has been nothing short of fantastic ever since that really rough first basically 2-3 weeks of the season. The last 3 months of the season, in June and July and now into August, he has been fantastic for such a young kid at such an advanced level. And not only that, but he doesn't even mention the 3-4 biggest breakout prospects on the Rangers farm this year. Doesn't say a single word about Alejandro Rosario, who went from very unheralded 5th round pick to absolute sensation this year. In his first year of pro ball, looks like an absolutely massive developmental win for the Rangers. Doesn't mention a single word about Emiliano Teodo, who looks like he is a legit starter right now, sitting in the upper 90s, touching triple digits with a nasty, nasty breaking ball and a decent changeup. Doesn't say a single word about the rest of these pitching prospects that have really burst onto the scene, guys like Cole Drake, guys like Isaac Tiger. And I think that's partially because of, a bias of what has happened before with the Rangers. And a bias that, mind you, is not unearned. The Rangers have not done anything to earn the benefit of the doubt of saying, this time these pitching prospects will be better and different than the 15 years of inability to develop any kind of homegrown pitcher that the Rangers have had. You need to see it a little bit to believe it. But I've seen it a little bit, and I'm starting to believe it. But also not having really kind of any respect for Kumar Rocker getting back on the mound, and so much prospect fatigue over Kumar Rocker, I think, has really diminished what he looks like overall in terms of top 100 rankings. He just barely cracked the top 100 of MLB Pipeline, which I think was kind of insane that he just barely cracked it the day that he got Tommy John surgery and then immediately was dropped off it not 45 minutes later. Kind of insane. But the guy's ceiling is still sensational. He's been pitching sensational so far this year. He is back on the mound. He is in AA, and granted, he is a little bit older. He's not old by any means. But, it's not like Tommy John is completely uncommon. It's not like it's completely unable for anybody to come back from and look just as good as they've ever looked. It happens to basically every pitcher in baseball these days. And to not even mention what those guys are doing feels like a real disservice to what this Rangers team is. And granted, they probably should be in the bottom maybe 10 farm systems in baseball. Maybe if you're optimistic, if you're really, really optimistic about Rosario, which I am, if you're really optimistic about guys like Cole Drake and Isaac Tiger and Kumar Rocker and Sebastian Walcott as well, then maybe you put them in that 10 to 20 range. But this is also just kind of the natural cycle of things. This is what happens when you win a World Series. It's also what happens when you graduate 2 of the consensus top 5 prospects in baseball. That's also another huge part of this drop-off. It's the 2 guys that were the 2 gems of this farm system, in Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, no longer being prospects. That's just kind of what happens, and that's fine. That's just the cycle of things. So I wouldn't read too much into this. I wouldn't be too frustrated by this. I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, there's no way that the Rangers are going to, contend for the long term because they, sacrificed all of that farm capital to, make those trades to win the World Series. And if that's the case, then who cares? That's the whole point of a farm system, is to accumulate wins at the big league level. Whether that's through developing players to win for you or developing shiny prospects that you trade away for established big league veterans. That's kind of the name of the game. But he did say nice things about the Rangers draft, liking the guys who have good approach and being a little bit less concerned about defensive positional fit. So I wouldn't read too much into this. I wouldn't get too worried about this or Fangraphs ranking the Rangers, the 22nd or 23rd system that they did last week. It's just kind of the nature of things, so I wouldn't get too worked up about it. But I would get worked up in a good way about what the Rangers Hickory team is looking like last night. The lineup last night. Not only because there have been so much more depth there, it kind of reminded me a little bit of that lineup back in 2014 with guys like Joey Gallo, Jorge Alfaro, with Nick Williams, with Lewis Brinson. Now, not all of them worked out, but still the kind of depth in that prospect system. Oh, also Nomar Mazara and Ryan Rua. That was a fun team. But the depth of that lineup, because the Rangers were able to assign their first round and second round draft picks to high A Hickory, that was an encouraging thing to look at that lineup and see, okay, this is a team that has struggled offensively all year long. There's not been a whole lot of offensive bright spots in Hickory outside of Sebastian Walcott, really, and a little bit of Alejandro Ozuna as well. But being able to see those guys in that lineup, especially mere hours after Kyler McDaniel said, this is the 29th best farm system in baseball. You trot out a lineup where your 9th placed hitter is a guy who I still had in my top 30. That is a pretty darn good lineup. And he wasn't just 9th place because the Rangers just wanted him to hit 9th. It's because there were guys who I'd say maybe 5 to 6 to maybe even 7 guys that I project as potential future major leaguers. That is a darn deep lineup. That is a darn good system. And prospect rankings don't really matter at this point. Eventually, we'll know how good these prospects are. It's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next year. It's probably going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. So maybe the Rangers do have the 29th best system in baseball. Maybe they don't. But right now, I'm just getting excited about where this system has made strides in developing homegrown pitchers, taking that next step, watching very closely as these guys start to matriculate up the levels if their success continues. And if eventually that success continues in the big leagues, then that paradigm will start to shift around the Rangers, around Chris Young, around this organization, of not just being a team that can occasionally pop out a decent hitter or two, but a team that can develop real talent on the pitching side. Which, my God, would that be such a game changer and so necessary for this Rangers team to keep competing in a division even as mediocre as the AL West is right now. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.